Start, whether you're working from home or you're heading out for work as well. We are here to bring you up to speed on what is making headlines across the country this morning, but also we'll be having a conversation around health, especially in terms of leveraging health or technology in healthcare, and that falls under digitizing health services. How quick can we do that as a country, as well as ensure that we utilize artificial intelligence and machine learning in a good way? And how do we secure as well your data when you're sharing some of your details online, just seeking medical services, or at least seeking expert opinion on various issues? So that is a conversation that we'll be having later on in the studio, putting in mind that in this country about 29.4 million people have no access to internet, while on the other hand 27 million have access to internet. So how can we give that balance with these two particular different types of people? So we'd love to hear from you. Give us your feedback, your thoughts, comments, questions perhaps that you may have concerning this discussion on leveraging technology in healthcare. We'd love to hear from you. SMS line is open as well, 23059. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. Let's just take a look at what is happening across the country first before we can get into the newspapers. Now, Bomet County Governor Hilary Bachok and former Bungoma County Governor Wycliffe Wangamati, as well as 10 other suspects, have been charged with corruption-related offenses and have been released on bond after denying the charges at the anti-corruption court in Milimani. Governor Bachok was freed on a bond of 15 million shillings or a cash bail of 5 million, while Wangamati secured his release on a 5 million shillings bond or an alternative of 1.5 million shillings cash bail. Delivering the ruling, Principal Magistrate Zipora Gishana ordered all suspects to surrender their passports within 7 days. They were further barred from interfering with witnesses or making public statements about the ongoing case. The mention of both cases has been scheduled for 17th and 18th September, respectively.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world. You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
All right, welcome back. Apologies about that. We'll be going back to that story in just a bit. Now, all right, we'll go back to the story at the top now. Bomet Governor Hilary Bachok And the former Bungoma County Governor Wycliffe Wangamati and 10 other suspects charged with corruption-related offences have been released on bond after denying the charges at the anti-corruption court in Milimani. Governor Bachok was freed on a bond of 15 million shillings or a cash bail of 5 million, while Wangamati secured his release on a 5 million shillings bond or an alternative of 1.5 million shillings cash bail. Delivering the ruling, Principal Magistrate Zipora Gishana ordered all suspects to surrender their passports within 7 days. They were further barred from interfering with witnesses or making public statements about the ongoing case. The mention of the two cases has been scheduled for 17th and 18th of September, respectively.
A bond of 5 million, in the alternative a cash bail of 1.5 million. These terms also apply to the accused number 6 and 7. Are we clear? Yes. Okay. So then we have the second and third accused. And their bonds have been set at 1 million and in the alternative a cash bail of 400,000 each. These terms also apply to the fifth accused. The fourth accused is a bond of 10 million, in the alternative a cash bail of 2.5 million. The eighth accused is a bond of 8 million, in the alternative a cash bail of 2 million. And then we have accused 9, 10 and 11 banded together, each of them a bond of.
At the same time, ward representatives from Bungoma County under the Ford Kenya Party have criticized the former Governor Wangamati Wycliffe for blaming the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula over his legal troubles. Wangamati, who served as governor between 2017 and 2022, appeared before the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission facing allegations of misappropriating 70 million shillings in collusion with his associates. He reportedly attributed some of the challenges to the Speaker Wetangula. Now, Ford Kenya reps, led by Majority Leader Joseph Nyongesa, and who's the Musikoma Ward Representative George Makari, Milima Ward Representative Jerusa Aleu, and Luandanyi Ward Rep Tony Baraza, among others, called on Wangamati and his allies to respect Wetangula and take responsibility for their actions amid the ongoing corruption case.
Kitu ambaye nafaa tujiulize kama wakaaji wa Bungoma ni kwamba jambo la kwanza ni je, ulipokuwa gavana wa jimbo la Bungoma, hizi kampuni ambazo walisitacha wakasiorodhesha silifanya kazi na wewe ama hapana? Jambo lingine ambalo pia lafaa tujiulize ni kwamba hao wakurugenzi ama directors wa hizo kampuni ni ndugu zako ama hapana? Kwa sababu hii mambo ya asset recovery ilianza mwaka wa 2021 hapo wewe ukiwa gavana wakati ya COVID-19 pia. Sijui hapo Mheshimiwa Moses Wetangula anaingilia wapi? Wakati huo hata hakuwa speaker. Sasa tunaposema ya kwamba yeye ndiye anasukuma haya maneno, pia tunadanganya wananchi na tunachitanganya sisi wenyewe kama viongozi. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Wangamati na wale wafuasi wako pia tunakusihi tu ukuwe na heshima kwa Mheshimiwa Moses Masika Wetangula. Haya yaliyofanyika na hizo kampuni wewe mwenyewe unajua. Na tena pia nataka niambie wale mawakili wa Mheshimiwa Gavana ni kwamba as a professional, unajua sio rahisi pia utapatape na maneno bila kujua sheria inasema nini. Kwa mambo ya asset recovery tulikuwa na kampuni ambazo sirorodheshwa. Mambo ya conflict of interest tunajua iko katika katiba yetu. Badala ya kungangana na msiko ambao umetupata, tunangangana na maneno ambayo hayahusiki na vile hali inaenda.
Tunasikitika kwamba former governor wetu aliingizwa ndani jana, na tunamhurumia kwanza. Lakini unajua wanasema msiba wa kujitakia hauna kilio. Kwanza sisi kama assembly wale tumekuwa from 2017 tunajua kwamba in fact 70 million is just the tip of the iceberg. Yale tunajua hata hii dual carriageway scandal yenye iko ndani EACC haijakundua. Scholarship yenye ilikuwa scholarship hata EACC haijaingia hapo. Wakiingia hapo gavana Wangamati hawatawahi toka ndani ya jela. because it's a very big scandal. So it's 70 million, my friend. Alafu tena unapata is just only the family, which means Bungoma ilikuwa ina kazi zinafanywa na family members pekee. Maona EACC imefanya tukakundua. Family members pekee ndio walikuwa wanafanya, and friends, a few friends. So kitu nataka niseme, wacha wale watu sheria ina wakata watoe Wetangula kwa mdomo yao.
ODM leader Raila Odinga and Nairobi County Governor Johnson Sakaja have successfully persuaded Nairobi County Assembly ODM members to suspend an impeachment motion, or MCAs to suspend an impeachment motion against the governor. The decision was reached after a closed-door meeting between the two leaders and the ward representatives. Speaking to the press after the deliberations, Nairobi ODM chairman George Aladwa confirmed that the MCAs had agreed to give Sakaja a 1-month grace period to reform his leadership approach and address concerns raised by the county assembly. The truce is expected to ease political tension in Nairobi County as Sakaja faces mounting criticism over his administration's management and service delivery.
Katika maongeo yetu ambayo tumekuwa nao kwa masaa 4-5 ambayo yamepita, tumeongea na watu wamezungumza na MCAs wametoa mambo yao na yamesikizwa, na vile vile pia leadership wametoa mambo yao ikasikizwa. Kwa hivyo kwa kauli moja tumekubaliana kwamba hiyo impending impeachment yairishwe na itolewe, na sasa tumekubaliana governor aendelee na kazi na vile vile ajumuike na akapewa pia marekebisho ambayo anafaa kufanya katika uongozi wake katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Na pia governor ametoa malalamiko yake na vile vile akaomba msamaha kwa wale MCAs wote, na tumekubaliana kwa muda wa mwezi moja yale marekebisho yao yamefanywa na tuone mji wa Nairobi ikiendelea. Tumesema ututaki siasa mbaya katika mji wa Nairobi. Kwa hivyo governor na huru wa kuendelea kazi yake hata kwa na impending impeachment ambayo itakuwako imewekwa.
I mean, that is interesting, isn't it? Especially following the conversation we had yesterday right here on Morning Live, just touching on will, Raila Odinga come in and save Sakaja at the end, and seems it did work out. The political godfathers, remember this is a man who was elected under UDA ticket, but has resorted to as well seeking help and assistance from Raila Odinga. So that's quite an interesting turn of events within Nairobi County. Let's see after the 1-month grace period what happens next. Now, doctors and other health workers in Lamu County have joined nurses in a strike that has led to the suspension of all healthcare services across the county. The industrial action, which took place in Peketoni town, comes after the county government allegedly ignored the workers' grievances. The health professionals cited unpaid salaries for the past 3 months, lack of promotions, and threats at the workplace, among other challenges, as reasons for the strike. Speaking during the demonstrations, the doctors emphasized that the strike is a last resort after repeated attempts to address the issues with the county administration proved unsuccessful.
Sekta ya afya ni ile sekta muhimu sana. Madaktari hawa wanafaa kuwa kazini. Lakini kushinda kila siku kwa barabara, sauti yetu haisikiki. Hii ndio kitu inatushangaza sana na kaunti hii ya Lamu. Ukiangalia kaunti zingine, mgomo ilianza kwa wauguzi mgomo ilianza tarehe 8. Kaunti nyingi wamerudi kazini. Hii yetu tukianza tu mgomo hii lazima upate mambo mengine yanatoka huku. Ile matako ya wafanyikazi wa afya haisikizwi.
Ile kitu tumeamua kufanya huyu mgomo sahihi ni kwamba grievances zetu hazisikizwi. Ya kwanza ikiwa ni ya promotion, ya pili ikiwa redesignation, ya tatu ikiwa mambo ya salary delay, ya 4 intimidation, mambo ya politics kuingizwa kwa healthcare workers. Kwa hivyo sisi hatuna nia mbaya na serikali. Tunaipenda serikali yetu na we respect it, lakini tuwaomba nayo serikali akiwa gavana wetu na waziri wetu wa afya watusikize. Walete hii mambo chini, wakalie chini, wazungumze na wasuluhishe, kila mtu apate haki yake na sisi turudi tukiwa na raha tuweze kupeana huduma kwa wananchi wetu.
Kuanzia leo tarehe 2 mwezi wa 9, wahudumu wote wa afya ambao wamehitimu na wamehitimu sawasawa hawako hospitalini. Mkienda huko hospitalini, wale ambao wanahudumu saa hizi ni ambao hawajaweza kuhitimu sawasawa. Kwa hivyo sasa tunaweza kuambia wananchi waweze kutafuta huduma za afya, huduma mbadala, kwa sababu hatuna wahudumu ambao wanaohitimu kazini kwa sasa.
Inauma sana kama sisi wahudumu wa afya, ikifika kwamba mtu amehudumu katika job group moja kwa muda mrefu, na ukiona unapata yani hii ukiwa itabidi sasa itafika mahali ambapo mtu aenda retire, lakini na ile job group ya kuingia utapata yule ambaye ameingia pengine nyuma yako, utapata yeye amesonga. Ukiuliza amefanya lipi la mno, upewi sababu ambayo inaridhisha.
Police in Kikuyu have arrested a University of Nairobi student suspected of fatally stabbing his roommate following a dispute over bathroom use. The victim, Brian Wambui, a third-year student, succumbed to his injuries after the disagreement escalated. Witnesses reported that the quarrel originated from conflicts over toilet use and cleaning duties. Omondi Ogola, a police officer attached to the DCI in Kikuyu, confirmed the incident and urged students to consider alternative dispute resolution mechanisms to avoid such tragedies. The victim's body has been taken to the PCEA Thogoto Hospital mortuary for post-mortem, while the suspect, Justus Otieno, is being held at the Kikuyu police station pending further investigations and arraignment.
We received a report from one of the security officers from the University of Nairobi Kikuyu campus, that there had been an incident where one student had stabbed another. The student was rushed to PCA Kikuyu Hospital, where later on we learned that the student had passed on. We suspect that the death was caused by the stab injury. So I'm here to confirm that we took up the matter. The police and the DCI and the members of the community worked together. The investigations were carried out. We were able to apprehend the suspect. The suspected murder weapon was secured, and today the suspect has been arraigned to court. We are seeking custodial orders so that we can further the investigations. We are yet to establish the motive of the attack, and once the investigations are complete, we will be recommending charges. The student, both the victim and the suspect are University of Nairobi students, Kikuyu campus. The cause of the quarrel, preliminarily we find that there was a disagreement between the victim and the suspect over issues to deal with the ablution block. And then the disagreement escalated, and other friends of the deceased joined in, and that is when the suspect maybe dashed to the house to get a weapon to defend himself. But the actual motive, the investigation will reveal, and then we will keep the media posted on what we find out. Let us see how we can be able to de-escalate issues, especially where we stay together as a people, right? I know we have issues with, as a student, we have pressures, exam, and all those other things, but once there is a quarrel, there's a disagreement, which is human to disagree. Let us first of all find ways of de-escalating the issues, and then after de-escalating the issues, reason will prevail. Now we have two futures that have been really shattered. The future of the deceased, and really the future of the suspect, if charged and convicted. It is not something to smile.
All right, I'd love us to get into the newspapers to just take a look at what is happening across the country this morning, and just the newspapers, what they are headlining, following a very busy, I'd say, Tuesday, especially within the capital city of Nairobi. So that's where we're going to start this newspaper review from, and that is on the Daily Nation. Why Ruto Raila saved Sakaja. Now, there's a compromise that had to be made, and President and ODM leader met hostile Nairobi MCAs separately to broker a truce. Now, there's worry about disruptive poll campaigns in the capital city if the governor and the deputy are ousted. At the same time, there's a fear of a showdown with former deputy Rigathi Gachagua in by-election and the impact of it in 2027, as well as concerns on broad-based government critics exploiting ouster plot to derail the Unity Pact. So this is some of the reasons why Ruto and Raila had to come in and save Sakaja quickly. There's the Gachagua factor, especially 2027. There's the critics factor, as well as those who've been slamming the broad-based government, as well as there's a factor on the upcoming by-elections and just the impact of this particular one within the Nairobi County government. Now, the president and Odinga held meetings with MCAs from their parties and prevailed upon them to drop the impeachment plan. The combined efforts of the two leaders saved Gachagua from impeachment, having lifted the lead on the high-stakes politics of the capital ahead of the 2027 polls. Now, there were also fears that the city could plunge into leadership chaos that characterized it in 2020, following the resignation of the then Deputy Governor Polycarp Igathe and the subsequent impeachment of the then County Governor Mike Sonko. A successful ouster of Sakaja and Mushiri would have also benefited former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua by presenting him with an opportunity to face off Ruto and test his political influence in the city. So those are some of the reasons why Ruto had to come in, as well as Raila, to save Sakaja from being kicked out of office. Now, the removal plan was, of course, scuttled with, this particular leader resorting to speaking to his political godfathers. Also, top of the page, after 45 billion shillings NTSA deal, tycoons eye the sugar trade. Now, businessmen Abdul Razak Sheikh and Abdul Nasir, who are eyeing a 45 billion shillings smart driving licenses tender, have made an aggressive entry into the sugar industry. So these are the two leaders who are at the center of the Soit Sugar Factory Limited, as well as the Tinderet Sugar Factory Limited. These are sugar companies that have made quite a lot of partnerships with organizations like Jaramogi Investments, ABS Trading Limited, and the tycoons are eyeing this particular sugar trade in a bid to save sugar companies in the country. Now, governors step up resistance against executive decrees, and that is concerning county bosses who are stepping up their resistance to executive decrees. Now, counties often clash with national government over the national revenue sharing cake. And now governors have stepped up their resistance to the executive directives, saying they undermine the authorities, setting the stage for a confrontation with the national government. This is all around the e-procurement system, in case you are wondering why. Now, the Council of Governors yesterday held talks with the Health Ministry officials, led by the CS Aiden Duale, but they did not reach an agreement on the immediate absorption by counties for the universal health coverage. There's a push and pull on various issues between the 47 governments, county governments, and the only national government. Now, to the Standard newspaper that speaks of "Stop This Mess." Foreign occupation and the Jubaland fighters boast of seizing firearms in Mandera, and even thank Kenya for the warm welcome as citizens flee their homes and government maintains an ominous silence. This is no isolated incident. From classrooms in Mandera turned into barracks to fishermen gunned down on Lake Turkana, Kenyans are left to bury their dead and abandon their homes as officials look away. Now, the president is keen on politics, The Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, that is the President. Now the CDF, the Chief of Defense Forces, is missing in action, while the Defense Cabinet Secretary is only seen on the lawns of State House during cabinet meetings. Who will stop this mess? Now, a Jubaland fighter says Kenya is our friend and has accommodated us well since early August after a fight broke out between us and the federal government. Forces who invaded house bases in Belet Hawa. We have no problem with the people of Mandera. Now, a Mandera resident says, I have moved my 92-year-old husband, Suftu, together with our children on a day mid-last month when the village turned into a battleground for Jubaland and the Somalia National Army. Essentially, we are having foreigners in this country, in a particular county in Mandera, who have taken bases in this particular region, are conducting their businesses and activities involving these foreign nationals in this region within Kenya. But the president is silent about it. The chief of defense is silent about it, as well as the cabinet secretary for defense is silent about it. Now, who will stop this mess? Because we are having border breaches, and people, I'd say residents of Kenya and citizens of Kenya are the ones being affected, with even deaths that have been recorded, but no one is speaking anything about it. Now, furthermore, the paper says the border has been breached, but State House security officers bury their heads in what could perhaps be the sternest test yet for Kenya's territorial integrity in recent times. For more than a month, foreign troops from Somalia's Jubaland state have pitched camp in Mandera, occupying farmland in Border Point 1 village. President William Ruto's solemn oath as the foremost defender of the country's sovereignty is under sharp spotlight as State House remains eerily silent to the incursion. Observers reckon that in any serious jurisdiction, the presence of an external force inside sovereign borders is in Kenya without sanction would amount to a national security calamity. But that is not what is happening in Kenya. Now, calls have been mounted for Ruto to expel foreign fighters on Kenyan soil. And, that's quite an interesting take from the Standard newspaper this morning, putting in mind that, he's been accused several times as well, the head of state, of allowing not just, foreign persons, but also the, foreign political activities that have happened in Kenya. For instance, if you look back at what happened at the Bomas of Kenya, where we had foreign nationals as well who came in to hold a meeting, opposition political leaders coming to hold a meeting in Kenya. And so it raises serious questions about just the security and this oath of office the president took. So that is the headline on top of the Standard newspaper this morning that speaks of stop this mess. Now, the Standard also talks about the Sakaja case in which Ruto and Raila have betrayed voters, say MCAs after Sakaja was saved. Ruto and Raila have betrayed voters, MCAs say, after Sakaja was saved. Perhaps the repercussions of saving Sakaja and just the thoughts of MCAs concerning this. He was to be impeached in the County Assembly after about 87 members of the County Assembly signed that particular impeachment motion to move that impeachment motion for it to be able to reach to the floor of the Senate, but that is not to be. Now he's been given a 1-month grace period. Well, 1 month is not a long time. We'll see what exactly happens within this particular month and just how that relationship between the governors and the MCAs is like. Now, the Kenya Ports Authority Board in spotlight as auditor queries 109 million shillings director packs, unsupported 45 million shillings payments, lacked receipts, travel records, meeting schedules, and land worth 60 billion shillings faces ownership disputes as court battles, indicates no valuation was done. Now, finally, to the Star newspaper. The youth vote, rivals gear up for fight over Gen Z voters. And that's a story that is on page 6 that just talks about the trend that is to be come 2027. Now, in 2022, the largest number of voters, or at least registered voters, would have been the youth. but they did not come out to vote, at least within that particular voting day of the 2022 elections. Now, it's a race for tyranny of numbers as IEBC opens voter listing with 5.6 million new voters expected to register. Now, candidates who have expressed interest are already eyeing the Gen Z vote. Interesting, right? Why? Perhaps because of the demonstrations that were witnessed this year as well as 2024, which was largely a Gen Z uprising. And so that plays a key factor in terms of just who should be your target. And so if you want to speak to the people of Nairobi and convince them to vote for you in 2027, well, the first people perhaps you need to speak to are the Gen Zs. And this is likely to be a pattern across the other counties as well. So the IEBC is set to officially kick off a nationwide voter registration drive, setting the stage for a high-stakes political battle to control nearly 6 million new voters, predominantly the youth, ahead of the polls. The resumption of the continuous voter registration followed an elaborate and tightly scheduled preparatory phase unveiled by the IEBC on Sunday. So you're likely to, get more information about where to register in case you want to change your vote and stuff like that as soon as possible as the IEBC rolls out the registration exercise. Now, how staff salaries has been draining varsity coffers, how staff salaries has been draining university accounts, with the Technical University of Kenya being the university that leads in terms of total salaries of staff at 3.2 billion Kenyan shillings, whilst the county or the school's revenue is actually 2.8 billion shillings. So the disparity is huge. You're having a high wage bill, and yet your total revenue is less. So if TUK, that is the Technical University of Kenya, nets in about 2.8 million shillings in revenue, all of it basically goes into salaries, because salaries accumulates 3.2 billion shillings. And now if you look at Taita University, which has about 533 million shillings in revenue, accumulating 463 million shillings in salaries, so they've got a wage bill of about 87%. TUM, Technical University of Mombasa, has got a wage bill of about 83%. JKUAT, 77% wage bill, and the statistics are huge in terms of just where the biggest problem lies at the universities and what's draining them, and that's the high wage bill that they have. So that is the headline on the Star newspaper this morning, the Standard and the Daily Nation. Now allow us to take a break at that point, but when we come back, remember the conversation I hinted to you about, and that is technology in healthcare, or at least health and technology, and how can we benefit from it, as well as a country that has got 27 million people not having access to internet. How do we also bridge this gap? Stay with us. We'll be back shortly with that conversation. Don't go too far.